From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Right now on the MTN News, spring storms strike again. From Billings to Baker, our weather team is tracking the radar and the impact on your community. Plus, from trash to treasure. Or in this case, a very unique dress.
This is a shower curtain that I painted using water-soluble glue, so think Elmer's glue or Mod Podge.
How this unique fashion statement is catching on here in Montana and beyond. The MTN 530 News starts right now. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Rain and storms on the horizon, but that threat seems to now be lessening here in Billings. A severe thunderstorm watch that was in effect has now been canceled. This is a time-lapse video from our Stockman Bank weather cam of that storm system rolling into the Magic City. The rain is pretty much out of Billings now, but several baseball and softball games across the area were postponed based on what was expected. Our David J. is out at Hootie Field at Rose Park tonight and begins our coverage with a look at the scene out there. David, how are things right now?
Russ, pretty good. Don't need a raincoat anymore, and seeing the sun coming through the clouds. This is the Billings Bench Water Association Canal. It's looking fairly normal. Have a little bit of grass here that's wet, and also on the ball field over there where some young little leaguers are playing. Infield looks dry there, but there are some hardy souls out there still playing baseball. Other parts of the park, older kids are also playing, and we're told over at Dealer Park that 6:35 start is still on the last time we checked against the Boise Hawks tonight. Also, the rest of the area looking fairly good in Rose Park, not too much as far as any puddles or anything like we saw last week at the parks, the parking lots, the streets, and the golf courses. So just a nice night here in May as we look at some of the baseball and all the kids enjoying themselves out here. That is the latest from out here. Russ, we'll send it back to you.
All right, good enough. Thanks, David. Glad to see the sunshine back out there again. We want to bring in Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh now. Ed, we missed the brunt of this storm here in Billings, but we were looking at that radar just a few minutes ago, and there's still a lot of green on it.
That's right, especially to the east of Billings. This will look off towards Miles City. You see some of the raindrops. That was right on cue for us. There was just waiting to hit the raindrops right on the camera as we went over there. But also some of the storm clouds around Billings earlier into the afternoon. Clint, thanks for sharing that one at weather at ktvq.com. You can see some of the mammatus clouds. It was mainly about wind for Billings. So now the National Weather Service has canceled, as you mentioned, the severe thunderstorm watch into effect for Yellowstone, Treasure, and also Muscle County. But anything in the pink shaded regions, we can see some strong storms, and wind is the #1 threat here in the short term. We're seeing some lightning, especially once we get into the eastern plains, and some brief pockets of heavier rain, but wind gusts have really increased. Here's a look over towards extreme eastern Montana around the Baker area, right along the North Dakota state line. Still seeing the potential for strong to severe storms, mainly wind, heavy rain, and for the eastern plains, there could also be some hail involved, Russ.
All right, thanks, Ed. We'll check back in with you a little later. Well, the countdown to Election Day is on, with the primary now less than a week away. Only 2 names are appearing on Montana's presidential primary ballots this year: President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. But voters do have another option, that being a no preference vote, a choice that seems to be growing in popularity. Tonight, our Alina Howder looks into the reasons why.
Joe Biden and Donald Trump may be the obvious candidates running for president, but there's another option that's gaining traction here in Montana, one that voters hope will send a message come November.
This is how 18-year-old MSU Billings elementary education major Amanda Lazelle spends her weekends.
Biden, you can't hide!
Protesting for what she believes in at the Yellowstone County Courthouse.
When I started learning about the Israel-Hamas argument going on, I knew that I had to do something, especially when it went from a war to a genocide.
That international conflict has made a big impact on the first-time voters' decision when it comes to the primary election.
I am a Democrat, so I am registered under the Democratic Party. But with everything going on, I really cannot vote for somebody who supports this genocide.
Amanda is just one of a growing number of people who are now using their vote as a form of protest by voting no preference.
It's like, I don't like being restricted to just these 2 parties or maybe even 3 parties, as well as looking at the individual candidates themselves, saying neither of these people appear meritorious or appropriate for this office.
MSU Billings political science professor Paul Pope says no preference voting has been an option for decades in Montana, but argues that today's political climate is unique.
In fact, our political division at this point within society is about equal to what it was leading into the Civil War.
And that's led to what we're seeing now, not only in Montana, but across the nation, with no preference votes surpassing expectations in most primaries so far. Almost half of all states have it as an option.
From what I looked, it's usually ranges from about 5% to about 18 to 20% or so.
Back in 2020, roughly 6% of Montana Republicans voted no preference compared to the almost 3% of Democrats.
Since 2016, it's definitely switched to more negative impact on Republicans, but we don't know how it's going to really turn out.
Though Pope is unsure how the primaries will roll out, Amanda hopes the message will resonate.
Our voices do matter. Regardless of what people say, our voices truly do matter.
In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
A Billings man previously charged with supplying the fentanyl that resulted in an overdose death has been charged again with the same crime. 26-year-old Eric Matthew Castillo pled not guilty this morning to a felony charge of criminal distribution of drugs resulting in death, along with 4 other felony counts. Castillo was taken into custody again after investigators say he was responsible for supplying fentanyl to Ethan Oak. The 23-year-old Oak died of an overdose in October of last year. Castillo was previously charged in February with supplying the fentanyl that caused the death of 22-year-old Caden Winnick in December of 2022. His bond has been set at $250,000. Lawsuit has been filed in federal court over a fatal crash in 2022 of an Osprey V-22 that killed 5 U.S. Marines. One of those that died in that California crash, Corporal Seth Rasmussen of Johnson County, Wyoming. According to Sheridan Media, an aviation accident law firm alleges deceptive practices and systematic failures causing the deaths of those 5 Marines. The lawsuit is filed on behalf of those families, including Rasmussen's. It accuses the companies of negligence and fraudulent misrepresentation. They say the companies failed to make truthful statements to government and service members about the design, operation, and safety of the Osprey aircraft. According to the law firm, since entering service, the Osprey has been involved in multiple accidents, resulting in the deaths of 62 people. A Billings cardiologist is looking to enhance heart care here in town after opening the state's first ever direct cardiovascular unit. The goal, to cut down on long wait times and offer patients an alternate way to visiting a hospital for treatment. And as our Charlie Cups reports in tonight's Your Health Matters, it's already made a big impact its first year of operation.
That new unit is unique, and for this reason. It gives patients the alternative to visiting big hospitals for heart care, something that's never been possible before. Recently, she had a bit of a scare.
A complaint was beating really fast, and then had an episode at wrestling practice where she just got really dizzy and almost passed out.
Stella's mother, Chelsea Lundgren, knew her daughter needed to see a specialist, something that's easier said than done.
It can be a lengthy process to get to specifically a pediatric cardiologist.
So she started researching alternatives and stumbled upon Dr. Nancy Waugh at her direct unit called Peds Happy Hearts. Just 2 days later, they were walking in for an appointment.
Getting into a specialty that quickly with a child, it takes away a lot of stress.
I've seen where patients will have to take weeks to months to actually see a specialist.
A big relief for the Lundgrens and the exact motivation behind Waugh's practice.
I think it's important because I feel like as a cardiologist, if you have a heart concern, instead of going to urgent care or ER, actually, I want you to come in and get seen right away.
After 10 years working in bigger hospitals, Waugh says she wanted to get back to offering more personal care. She charges a fee per appointment, but depending on the provider, insurance can cover the cost after the fact.
My biggest goal is to kind of create a one-stop cardiology care.
A goal she's well on her way to accomplishing, seeing more than 50 patients in year 1 as the first unit of its kind in the entire state.
Just makes it so much easier to rule things out for a parent.
In Billings, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
Well, still to come on the MTN 530 News here on Q2, Trash and Fashion. One group taking a unique approach to bring awareness to the fashion industry and its impact on the climate. And later in sports, hitting the target, a 14-year-old from Hardin aims to be the best and already is, despite picking up archery just 3 years ago. We'll hear from our athlete of the week in just a bit.